Wholesalers and distributors come in all sizes. Many sell to business buyers in one or multiple markets, and most wholesalers and distributors are reaching new customers through the online sales channel. This webinar will provide key insights into how to find success at B2B commerce and wholesale distribution. This webcast features key highlights from the just published Digital Commerce 360 B2B Distributor 300 report, which breaks down B2B e-commerce sales and growth trends among 300 U.S. distributors and wholesalers of varying size. Data in the reports shows how e-commerce is advancing at different rates in each of 13 important product categories. In addition, the case studies that we do highlight from the B2B 300 will offer useful examples of how wholesalers and distributors in various industries are creating websites and mobile ads to let them serve their customers and more so win at the business of e-commerce. During the webinar, researchers, including myself, will break down the e-commerce data. We're going to tell you what it means, both to you as a manufacturer, distributor, wholesale, or from your walk of life, why it's important to be online in today's e-commerce-centric world, and we'll spend some time looking at some of the challenges and returns on investment and wins that can be gained by those among distributors that are taking the leap into even more B2BC. So our panelists today include myself, James Bonomo, COO of Regina Andrew Design, Inc., and Asad Ahmad, e-commerce principal sales consultant from NetSuite. B2B commerce, or going online in the first place, have to do with the resistance inside the four walls. So it could be lack of support from your CEO or top management. It could be resistance from the sales force. But either way, the impediments to doing more but not less e-commerce are often more inside and internal than they are with whether the outside world is ready for you. So I know we covered a lot of ground, but I think the takeaway from me is here, this gives you a sense of just how big B2B distribution is online, what the opportunity is online, and a little bit of feedback with some data on how you can go out there and begin to look at those digital touch points and what your buyers want from you and give that to them. And at the end of the day, you'll be a leader and not a lagger with B2B e-commerce. And next, I would like to introduce James Bonomo, who is the Chief Operating Officer. He's going to take over the next part of our presentation here. So, James, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you, Mark. That was really, really nice. It was really nice to see how big of an industry, how big of an opportunity that we all have and face in front of us. Once again, I'm James Bonomo, Chief Operating Officer of Regina Andrew Design. That's my contact information. If anybody wants to contact me personally or after the call, I feel free. I always like new LinkedIn friends and all that fun stuff. I'm an accountant by trade. I'm not a technology person. I actually been a tax preparer for many years, went to Michigan State University, graduated back in the 90s. I've been working with Regina Andrew Design for about 12 years. Came on board in 2015, and one of my biggest responsibilities was to actually get our technology game up to speed and try to get some of the pain points from our customers and from our internally and externally. It was a really big project. So a little bit about Regina Andrew Design. In the bottom right-hand corner, you see those two good-looking kids. That's James Andrew and Carla Regina. They are the founders of Regina Andrew. They started about 21 years ago. They're a married couple. It's their middle names. We're based in Detroit, and we are a traditional B2B wholesaler lighting company. We have traditional showrooms. We have our flagship store here in Detroit. We have a showroom in High Point, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Laguna, and Las Vegas. I'll actually be at High Point next week for the International Home Furnishing Shows that happens twice a year. The furnishing industry is still that B2B model where the customers come in and they go to the trade show, they want to see our new product, and they shop and they buy. But one of the interesting things about that buying experience, we've seen that evolution in our home furnishing industry really accelerate in the last 4 to 5 years, where these influx of designers, these influencers, if anybody watches HGTV, all these stylers and stuff. So it's really taken over our industry. And so we have a lot of B2B customers, but they're more small customers or more designers. mom and pops and such. And the industry has really expanded. A little bit about us. We are one of those smaller companies that Mark was talking about earlier. We have less than 50 employees. We have 45 employees. We have a hybrid 50 outside sales professionals. So they're independent sales reps, that traditional B2B model where these folks go around and they service customers in just different regions of the country. And so it's really when we really started to go, before we really started getting our digital campaign strategy going, we were doing very small percentage of business online. It was traditional B2B where our sales professionals would go out, meet with stores, show us a product, go to the line, go to the catalog, and do that purchasing process. And so the internet was on our website. We had a website, but it really wasn't driving a lot of commerce. We did participate in marketplaces, but it wasn't to the degree that it is now and the evolution. The good thing about technology is it's a big investment, and I can see a lot of those pain points, and I've heard it throughout the years as I've done some speaking and also meeting with customers and other cohorts and competitors and such. Is technology it's a big expense and it's a big undertaking. It's one of those things that a lot of people think that you're just going to put up a website and that's what you're going to do, but it's a process, and it's getting that partner, and it's a strategy. And my biggest advice to anybody undertaking this is to do more of an iterative approach. So just taking smaller bites and pieces and have that plan, have that roadmap, and then realizing that the aha moment is that it's never going to be done. You're always going to go to where the customer needs are. So for this presentation, I really wanted to focus on 4 things, like 4 pillars to really focus on. 1, focus on the user experience. 2, innovate, create brand recognition to drive growth. 3, optimize demand and supply chain. And 4, most importantly, keep on the customer needs. But with all of these, what it really comes down to is you really want to focus on the customer, because the customer, whether it's B2B or B2C, they're customers, they're consumers. They interact, and how they interact and what their buying experience is. And a case in point is even when I'm working with my internal team, as we layer on more technology, we layer on more processes and stuff, you have to really get everybody involved. And the most important thing is getting your employees involved here, from the people, our customer care team, the people that take care of our customers. You have to make sure they're engaged, making sure they understand the technology, make sure they're understanding what the customer's experience is. If you take care of your employees, they're the ones that take care of your customers. So that's really an important process. So let's dive down a little bit on this. So let's focus on the user experience. First, I put in search engine optimization. I know Mark hit on it a little bit. A lot of people ask, why would I care about having SEO or make sure that my site is SEO, have a search engine optimization? What does that even mean? It basically means that your site can be found. You have all the keywords, and you're making the Google happy. So you're making sure that your Google search words and your keywords and your Google Search Console, so making sure your site is optimized. So when somebody is looking for your product or looking for your services that you're involved in, so that they actually can be found. It's interesting, 51% of all web traffic comes from organic search. So when you think about that, is when you're Googling yourself or you're Googling your products and looking at your SEO, you really want to make sure everything is in place. The second thing you really want to look at is on-site search. As much as I love our website, and we always are working on about our homepage, one of the biggest things when people go and look for your product, look for your services, is they go to your homepage, they look around, they usually search the about page, they want to know about you, and then they start typing in that search bar. So they will look at your on-site search. You would think that someone would go through all the hard work and go through your customer categories, look at your landing pages, but so much of the product is found, or your services are found, through outside search and directed to a specific landing page, or through your on-site search, which would be your search bar that's on top. So you got to make sure that search is optimized. So meaning that when someone types in, for instance, for us, a crystal table lamp, that it shows all the options for crystal table lamp, and also has all of the other acronyms, synonyms, misspellings, because it's amazing when you really look through your website and you start diving into the analytics, how much spelling and things matter. One of the top search words for Regina Andrew is Regina Andrews. They put an S after our name, and I know that's more of a Midwest thing, but it seems to be, happen. So you got to make sure that your search, everything you have searched, and all the different variations of misspellings can be found, so your customer can find your product or find that service. Product detail page. When a product detail page that's your information, that's your money, that's what people, when they get to that product, it's got to be has all the information. So you really want to look at exactly what the user experience is when they get to your product detail page. Does it have all your product specifications? More importantly, it has availability. One of the things we do at Regina and Andrew is we actually put for future availability in. We'd love to have everything in stock, and we're looking for that in-stock position, but one of the things we do leverage is if something is out of stock and we know that we have some, information on purchase order, we actually show the future availability. So, hey, this wonderful table lamp is not in stock right now, but we have 50 coming in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So it gives that buying experience for that customer to make that decision whether to purchase that product, which is huge because one of the pain points when we were developing our website and looking at some of the approaches, we reached out to the customers, worked with our internal team to figure out what were the pain points. One of the pain points for customers was availability and then future availability. When is that? It's not in stock. When is it going to be? Because if those customers are calling and asking for that information or reaching out through email, you know that you have to realize how many customers aren't finding that information and just moving on to a different product. The next thing I want to talk about is custom catalogs. What does that mean, custom catalogs? Well, each customer for us they're different. We have a variety of customers. We service the designers. We also have furniture stores, lighting stores, specialty stores, and then they're also located in different regions of the country and also different parts of the world. So do you have that ability to customize that buying experience? So if if a certain product is not available, if you have something that is basically is more in tune for somebody that's looking for something bigger or size requirements or really wouldn't fit that customer needs because they're going to be shipping to somebody's house because they're working at home or they're a business, but businesses are really just the ability to get a tax ID and what you classify those businesses are. And so you have to look at those, customizing those catalogs based upon different types of customers. Quick checkout, this is huge because when you dealing with digital and you're dealing with e-commerce, you're dealing with speed. And so you have to have the ability so that entry to port, you're always looking for is trying to take out the pain points for the customer to get through to checkout because you do want them to check out, get that card, charge that credit card, have the ability to make different changes on their orders and stuff so they can execute. The last thing you want to really have happen is a customer get frustrated if they can't check out and they have too much information, they can't deliver that expectation. But additionally, from B2B is you have to be able to have different fields available so the customer wants to sit there and say, I need this order by X amount of dates because it's working on a certain shipment or a certain project. And so you have to give them the ability to make changes to their order. And it's a lot of customers in the B2B world is you're doing quotes, RFQs. So you have to have the ability to give those customers flexibility in your mobile own website experience. Next thing we want to talk about is innovate and create brand recognition. I get this a question a lot of times. It's one thing for Regina and Andrew. You sell these beautiful product lightings. I sell, car parts. We're located in Detroit. Am I creating a brand recognition, for something that's selling parts or hoses or whatever that you're selling widgets? And then I always come back to them. I says, well, what are your competitors doing? What is Amazon doing? Because that is one of the huge things that brands happen. Because Amazon, they sell some of our lighting and they sell some other competitor lighting, but they also sell toilet paper. They sell all the other types of batteries on their marketplace. You can buy everything on Amazon. Amazon, I believe, does over 50% of all e-commerce transactions go through Amazon, which is crazy. And so then a lot of our customers will sit there and say, well, do you sell on Amazon? How do you deal with these marketplaces? Well, the two big things in our industry are Amazon and Wayfair. And actually, Wayfair is actually in the furniture home industry is actually a bigger player than Amazon. I believe Wayfair does about $9.2 billion worth of furniture sales in the world, which equates to about 1% of the overall furniture industry. And Amazon, I believe, does about $3 to $4 billion, a little less than half of that. And what do you do? It's how can you sell in these marketplaces and then also, happen to have your own store because they're your competition? Well, I always tell people is you have to go where the eyes are. The digital marketplaces, you have to go where people are searching. And it's usually on their phone and on the desktop. And these marketplaces, I know everybody, myself personally, I buy things on Amazon all the time. And when we started selling on Amazon, I jokingly told some of my customers, I just always assumed Amazon was just charging. I was surprised we're actually selling stuff because Amazon products always show up at my house. So Amazon, to me, is you have to look at that. That's the standard of these marketplaces that you want to participate. In these marketplaces, you have to get your product out there. You have to get your brand out there so your customers will be found. You just can't hope that your organic searches or your SEO on your data, that people do happen to find your website, because the buyers are changing and stuff. The digital people, especially in the B2B, is a lot of times they find things on Amazon. They might see your product and then they'll say, let me see exactly what else this brand has. And then that's what it goes to, is because even in all these marketplaces, we participate on quite a few marketplaces, and they're wonderful partners. They help out. They're brand ambassadors for our brand. But additionally, one of the things, the frustration parts of these marketplaces, and you realize, is that they're not the resource. They're not you in everything, where they can't, you're limited to that friction point of the EDI feed, of the API feed for filling into their box. When you go to our Amazon store for Regina and Andrew, it only has a snippet. It only has the amount of real estate that marketplace allowed. Same thing for Paragold and even Marcus and other great marketplaces that we're on. But when you come to Regina and Andrew, that is our digital store. You got to think of your digital store as your store. It's a storefront. It's as big as the store that the World Wide Web will supply for you. And so then you have that opportunity to put a lot more things on your own digital resource, because you are the source. There is no restriction for that. So you put in videos and tips and reviews and chats, all these features. We initialized chats a couple months ago, maybe about 6 months ago, onto our site. And, one of the things was our customer service people were like, well, how are we going to have this chat? And I was surprised of how many people use chat at first, because, wow, it's working out great. But then I thought to myself, well, yeah, because everybody's using the chat, and they're using, how many people use text, because people really don't want to talk to anybody anymore. They additionally just want to be able to get their answer, and they might have something. So it gives those people, your customers, the opportunity to communicate. They want to communicate. And additionally, the social media of things, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Twitter is really not a good resource for us, but we do have it. But for us in the furniture industry, Instagram and Pinterest have been really the leading indicators, especially Pinterest. We started doing an initial B2B engagement on Pinterest and telling that story, that social media story, because so many people are on their phones or on these social media things. That's the way they're discovering your product and your brand and what you do. And that's what it goes to, is telling your brand story, because that's going to differentiate you in the digital marketplace from everybody else, is telling what you do, and most importantly, how they're going to trust and buy everything. Because building that trust in today's economy is so key. It's crazy. It's almost 2020, and how many things have changed in 20 years. Me traveling to showrooms, and I'm sure everybody else are traveling them out, is Airbnb, you think of Uber, you think of Lyft, you think of all of these things in the economy, because today's economy is based upon trust. It's that ability that you get something and travel in different ways. The trust in today's economy is huge. And that's all of it that happens on the digital marketplaces and stuff, is you're building that trust. So when someone comes to your B2B website, is how everything represents that they're going to, whatever they see and all the specification that you have when they make that purchase to spend their dollars, that they actually get that product and delivered. That's why Amazon and such is a great marketplace for everything. It's a gold standard, because everybody knows that, yeah, the Amazon's great. You're going to get that little smile box, and it's going to be at your door in 2 days, because if you have Amazon Prime. That trust economy, it didn't exist 20 years ago. It used to be, you have to go to the store and then you pick out whatever things you want. But not saying that these stores and the brick and mortars are dying. It's just how it is evolving. It's so key. And you can only do that by really enhancing your brand story. So how do you optimize your demand? So when you start looking at getting your website and you start building all of these things out, your digital strategy, then you really have to start looking at how do you optimize the demand? And you start thinking of that search, that execution, how the people are going to find you. And one of the biggest things that we did for many years is we have a gated site. So there was that firewall, that B2B side, and that ability for that customer to figure out what to see the products. They had to create an account, or they had to get that credentials. we opened up our site back in February, and we saw a huge increase from our B2B, and we actually started selling B2C. It was more of a strategy because of the marketplace nexus status, which is a totally different conversation. But once we opened up our site, we found that the ability, the ease to check out and to figure out where people are looking for, because that customer is engaging in your brand or engaging with you, and it really they can figure out exactly how they do it, because that B2B customer is also a B2C customer because they're buying on Amazon, they're buying on all these other marketplaces. And then you have to start thinking of how do they find you. And I know Mark talked about it, and one of the pain points is, that's the pain points of how your site is merchandised and how it is located and how the keywords, because it's amazing that when you move stuff on your first page, most of the people, they're looking for something and they get to a product category page. Usually they're going to be buying on that first page. You're not going to continue to scroll and go through. It's how much time they're going to spend and find those product recommendations, search bar, easy path to purchase. User-generated content, that's more of a thing that's happening now, where people socially, they want to talk about what they're spending their product on and use your product for. And then they're telling that socially, and then they want to be recognized with their content onto your site or onto your platform. And then you have to start looking at about coupon specials and deals, because we're all in the business of moving product, and how do we move that inventory out and, through specials and deals without just giving it away. And then additionally is email marketing plan, because so much of that product is going through an email marketing plan and how you're communicating with those products. But it ultimately comes down to is the customer. And customers, everybody has a phone. I'm always amazed, and I will be more amazed, sure, this time when I go to High Point, is we'll be in our beautiful showrooms, going to the market, and thousands of people are there. But everybody is looking on their phone. The average human, I believe, I know Apple gives you your weekly report. It's amazing. I believe everybody spends about 4 hours a day on average on their cell phones, either through email communication and such. And I believe you touch your phone maybe over 2,600 times a day, which is crazy when you start thinking about it. So if your site, and you can't be found mobilely, if you kept mobile first, meaning that your site looks and optimized so people can scroll and they can find everything that they're doing through a mobile device, is huge. It's going to even be more, because the next generation of millennials, and then my kids, the next generation of that, they're already used to living that digital native, and those are the buyers. Those are the buyers for B2B and B2C, and it's huge. But it ultimately comes down to great customer service, because people like to do business with people they like, and that's so important. It's basics. And then you have to look at how you want to communicate with these customers. And that's why you have to have an integrated phone system, email and chats, and that easy path to purchase. Shipping options for B2B is huge, because customers, they're usually dealing with some type of need and want of when they want things. They have to be controlled because they're the customers. You have to be able to communicate it. With B2C, it's usually they purchase something, they go through the window shopping, and they want it in stock, and they're going. But B2B customers, they'll wait for things, they'll look for back orders, because they're running a business. You are their resource. And then most importantly is, your product delivery has to be timely, it has to make match, it has to be, matching what they see online. And that circles back to that trust, that experience. Because when you think about in today's economy, when if I stay in an Airbnb and you look at the apartment or the house that you're renting and stuff, those photos and that trust that house is going to be better than in a hotel, or if the Uber driver is going to be better than a taxi driver, or any of the things that we do, shopping online and digitally native, it's got to match. And if those customer expectations, if it doesn't match on what that story is, then they lose that trust, and you lose that customer, and then they're going to tell you about it through product reviews. And so it ultimately circles back to that trust. So hopefully there's some good insights for everybody on that. And Mark, I guess back to you.
With that, I'll pass it back over to Mark.
Okay, so thank you for Ahmed. We appreciate that, and we have time for a couple of questions here. And James, why don't you take this one? Take this one first, because you mentioned that you deal both with the B2C and B2B world. But the question here has to kind of do with synergy. So the question is, can we have both B2B and B2C customers use the same website, and how can the behaviors differ between the two?
Yeah. So we have opened up our website to be both B2B and B2C. And that is actually, the behavior really, when you start looking at it, is how that process is. And it goes back to that customer segmentation. And so you have to start thinking of what that value proposition, what the consumers what they want to be able to achieve, that's necessarily to the business customer wants to achieve. It can be done. And myself personally, we went down that journey about 8 months ago, and we've been really happy with it because it really gives us that marketing strategy and that strategy for looking at the customer, so everything's targeted through one site.
And Asad, what's your take on that? So the question once again was, can one website service B2B and B2C if indeed each of those groups have different kind of purchasing and buying behavior?
Absolutely. That's something, Mark, that we see a ton of on our end. So we have B2B wholesalers and distributors who will have the same exact site. It's just going to be a different product mix. So again, the same customer segmentation comes into play. Similarly, in the pricing side, they'll have MSRP pricing on the consumer-facing side and different pricing based on the customer login that will have that there. So again, from a buying standpoint, allowing customers, B2C customers just to check out with credit cards, B2B customers with credit cards, ACH, and even purchasing on invoice. So again, absolutely, both of them can be done on the same site there.
Okay, next question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on that. That's one of the things. It really does go back to the customer journey. And with the consumer side too, what we do at Regina Andrew is we don't let them place back orders and stuff. We enable the back in stock notification, and then we really look at that customer journey to be a little different on the consumer side than the B2B side. I believe B2B is a lot more harder than B2C.
Our next question has to do with complexity, and we discuss this, and we see this quite a bit in the interviews we do over here at B2BEC News, which is it's not a straight one-off between how a B2C transaction is as opposed to a B2B transaction. So, for instance, B2B transactions, as I think us in the audience are certainly well aware, is a very complex procedure. So the question is, B2B customers want to see offline orders on their account. Is that possible? So my question to you both is, that is a complex task. One attendee wants to know, is that possible? So James, what do you think? And then Asad, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely possible. It really goes back to when you're driving people to that to your website and to your My Account section on your website, and teaching that customer of where to find that information or how they get that information. It's very possible.
And Asad, what's your take on that?
On my side of it, Mark, it really gets defined on how your systems are in place. If you have a unified system, that means you have one customer entity. In typical organizations, you'll have a different web store and you'll have a different salesperson store where the salesperson is selling to the end customer. With NetSuite being a unified platform, regardless of where the customer is purchasing and how they're purchasing, be it online, over the phone, at a trade show, through a catalog, faxed in orders. Hopefully they're not faxing anymore. But again, however they're ordering things, it gets funneled to one singular customer profile. So remember on my first slide, I talked about the customer 360. That's where it goes in, and that customer can then access that information on the web through the My Account. And that's one of the big things that we have seen for our e-commerce customers is they're using us for that My Account solution where you're able to provide that omni-channel information for them.
And I think yes, go ahead.
Yeah, in a real case scenario for us, I'm going to go to High Point next week, and we do all of our trade show orders through our website. One of the things that we worked with on our website was before we used to have an app that would have the orders come through, but then it was that third-party software. So now everything from the My Account. So it makes it really easy for our trade customers to go through and have that one account. It's really important.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. So here's the next one, which is, at the beginning of our webinar, it was mentioned that, yes, it's a big market. Yes, there's lots of room for opportunity. But, the pace of how distributors and wholesalers are embracing e-commerce is varied. It's as varied as there are companies. So one of the things that we try to look at was, okay, why does it vary so much? And if I could point to one thing and to one trend I think that we're looking at here is we talk to companies where they've been at B2B e-commerce for maybe 10, 12, 15 years. they're on their third iteration. It's only now where they think they finally got it right. Or, they're launching it, but it's kind of a sidebar business because they want to see how it goes, because the main thing they're doing is growing through the sales force and through the centers out there, the distribution centers, if you will. So having said that, my question is, it varies because it takes into account how seriously the internal stakeholders are inside each company that want to do this. And one of the reasons I think we find it varies is because that is all over the map. And how committed they are leads to getting the right talent in place, leads to the business process, to the strategy, and then on to the growth to come, if that's the way that organization is leaning. So the question is, why do you think this varies so widely from one company to the other if you are in the distribution business? So, James, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. I really think it varies. It goes from each business its own entity, and it's the approach of the management. People think that how they want to conduct it, it's hard. It's really hard to go and wrap your mind around the technology that is in place with the website's unified platform, ERP, CRM. And so from a business, you get paralyzed. And you think, well, how can we just do these things like we normally do? It's that farming mentality. I'm going to go plant the crops, and then we're going to have a good farm. But what happens if there's a drought? But if you take ownership of your digital strategy and you put a plan in place, and you have a partner in place, someone like NetSuite, you can really make your own. You go back to the hunter-gatherer as a wolf, and you go out and attack it, and then you take a hold of how your business is. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. But the good thing about technology is it has that ability to increase and help your turnful, because you can see where the businesses are growing. You have to just open up your eyes and be aware.
Okay, well, that takes us to the top of the hour here. So, James, I want to thank you for your presentation. And Asad, thank you for your presentation. And I want to thank everyone for their spending an hour with us. We hope you found the content worthwhile. After we sign off here, you'll see a short survey pop up on your screen. If you would take a few minutes to fill out the survey with your feedback, we'd much appreciate that, because it helps us guide the development of future webinars. With that, have a very good day. Thank you.